All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to ISE's Lunch and Learn session today on CPQ. Today is our second session in our four-part series throughout the summer. And today's session is focused on what I consider to be the coolest aspects of CPQ, where we'll be touching on the 3D visual engagement functionality and augmented reality. So this is where CPQ really stands out and becomes a very cool and productive tool for your company. My name is Sherry Woodrick. I am with ISE. I am a senior account executive. I also have with me today Charles Hood, who is our keynote speaker for today, and he is ISE's senior programmer analyst. And also helping us out today through the session is Christina Boyd. So welcome again. And before we get started, I'd just like to handle a couple administrative tasks. Just as a reminder, everyone is in listen-only mode. So if you have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to use the chat feature, and we will either reply via chat or most likely at the end of the session too, we will revisit and recap the questions at the end to make sure everyone has all of their answers. And if for some reason we run out of time, because sometimes we do that, then we will make sure that all of the questions are documented and responded to you in some kind of electronic format, email or document or something. I'll get back to you. So, all right, before we get started with the agenda, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera. And so this is the agenda for today. I'm going to do a quick recap of the journey, and then we're going to take one short poll question, and then I'll turn it over to Charles, who will talk about the 3D visualization functionality of CPQ, including 3D visualization, augmented reality using QR codes, and then artificial intelligence that you can use for cross and upselling. And then we'll review the prototype next steps at the end, and then answer any questions that we didn't get to through the session. So here we are today, August 26th at 1 Eastern, noon Central. We are again focusing on the 3D functionality within the CPQ solution. In 2 weeks, we're going to talk a little more techie, but not too techie. We'll talk about the XA and CPQ integration between the two solutions. And then the last session, 2 weeks after that, we'll have an open mic roundtable where we will have experts in the CPQ arena, along with some customers who have been through a CPQ journey and are willing to share their stories with you. And then last, but certainly not least, we will have the workshop at the Empower session in Milwaukee, September 11th through 14th. The workshop session will actually be on the 14th. As a reminder, don't forget to register for Empower. Here is the link that you can use to register. And then secondly, don't forget to register for the CPQ workshop. And here is the link for that as well. And if you want to take a quick snapshot of that, you can, to make sure you register for that workshop. As a reminder, we also will send you a special thank you gift for participating in this series. We're including what we call a summer series swag bag, and it includes lots of cool things like a blanket, sunglasses, tumbler, a gift card for some beverages to put in your cooler. And it's just a thank you from Infor and ISE for participating in this journey with us. All right, so one quick polling question, if we could, and this is where Christina is going to help us out. The question is, what is of most interest to you in today's session? Are you most interested in 2D functionality, 3D functionality, the augmented reality using QR codes, artificial intelligence, or maybe there's something else? So please check all that apply. And then this will help us in better understanding what your interests are as part of your journey. All right, once that is complete, I want to share one thing with you before I turn this over to Charles. There is a part of our session today where you can actually participate. And if you have a few minutes while we're doing some transitions here, there is an app on the App Store. It's called the QR Reader. I happen to have an iPhone, so my screenshot shows it's for the iPhone, but they also have it for non-iPhones. This application will help you to read the QR code that Charles will be presenting. You can see in my scenario here, I configured a chair, created my QR code, I took a snapshot of it in my phone, and I put my chair in our den. It's kind of a strange place to put it in front of the door, but I thought that was all pretty cool. So Charles will be doing a demonstration on a hot tub and that you can put into your space. So if you take a few minutes and want to download that QR Reader application, then you too can participate. All right, so that's the fun stuff. All right, without any further ado, Charles, I am going to turn this over to you. You can just start sharing your screen when you're ready.
Okay, thank you very much, Sherry. Appreciate it. All right, very good. All right. Can you see my screen? You should be able to see my PowerPoint screen.
Yep, we can see it.
We can see it.
Perfect. Thank you. Always love feedback. Thank you. Okay, so this is session number 2. Session number 1 last week was a necessarily brief tour of enterprise quoting, the cloud-based quoting tool that is part of the CPQ suite. And we talked about CPQ being the name for the entire suite. And I'll show you that little app launcher again, so you'll be reminded of all 5 of the apps that are in the CPQ suite. Enterprise quoting being a very robust web-based Infor compatible. It's a part of Infor if you're licensed to it. It fully integrates with Infor Ion, Infor Document Management, Burst, et cetera. So that was EQ last week, and this week we definitely want to focus more on the Enterprise Configurator, EC, and especially visualization approaches. So how to use visualization, both still images and moving images, as we'll see, to augment the configuration process, configuration experience for your dealers, distributors, or customers as well, if you're launching CPQ from either your ERP or your company's own web page. We talked last week about the 3 different ways you can launch the the enterprise configurator, either in EQ itself or from your company's website, web page, or through an ERP application like XA. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about EQ dealers in action. Then we're definitely going to talk a lot about visual engagement. And as Sherry showed you, and I hope you have time to download that QR code reader app, because I am going to be presenting a QR code that you'll be able to scan. I'm going to show you what it looks like on my device in case you can't do it on your device. And then we'll talk a little bit about the Coleman AI, really very modern, super up to date. What a great enhancement this is for EQ and EC to include an state-of-the-art artificial intelligence application for cross-selling and upselling. Okay, so EQ dealers in action. So this is just the one topic I just never quite have time to finish in session 1. So let's take a look. All right, so enterprise quoting allows 2 different modes, if you will, 2 different types of users. You can have your dealers or distributors as well, if you want to think of it that way. And even sometimes it's, for some companies, this might be one of your huge, really trusted customers, but typically it's a dealer or a distributor relationship. So they buy from the manufacturer, they resell to their end customers. And they can even buy products before the end customer is known. You don't have to specify the customer in the quote right away. You can purchase the products ahead of time. Each dealer is set up in a territory, and a manufacturer can obviously have multiple dealers. And now the dealers, as far as XA, ERP, they would be a customer in XA or ERP, but they would be known as a dealer or distributor in enterprise quoting. And the dealers can then have child dealers, so they can have their own distribution channel, their own dealership channel. Okay. And then and not as opposed to that, but to complement that, you have direct sales reps. And of course, they're creating quotes and orders for the manufacturing company's customers and also for the dealers if necessary. And they are direct sales reps of the manufacturer, and they can be assigned to multiple territories. You know, the dealer, as I just mentioned, is set up against the territory. And we'll take a look at this here to see what this looks like. If we can, okay, here's my new homepage here, new and improved. I mentioned the application launcher. So these three at the top: CPQ Workbench, Configure Price Quote, CPQ Analytics. Here's Enterprise Quoting, where we're focusing, and EQ Designer to enhance enterprise quoting. So those five are our CPQ. The configurator itself, like I said last week, is now technically Enterprise Configurator EC. So let's go into Enterprise Quoting. There's some quotes you may remember from last week, but notice over on the left here under quotes, I have both direct quotes and dealer quotes. So I can go into dealer quotes as well. And it depends on what I'm allowed to have access to. I happen to be, a super user in this test instance of Infor.os. So notice under quotes, there's direct and dealer, and the same thing with orders. There's direct orders and dealer orders, and our dealers are loaded in the dealer table, the dealer database, and who's a representative of what dealer and all that has already been set up. Okay, and then what I'm going to talk at now, or talk about, is the fact that when you do quotes and orders in dealer mode, you have this on behalf of mode, where if you need to, if you're set up to allow this, and this would have to be set up in your sales rep master record, you can use what's called on behalf of mode. And here's all the people that I'm set up to enter quotes and orders for. Notice Sherry is one of them, and then several of these other are fictitious. And there's myself. So I'm able to enter dealer quotes and dealer orders for the following dealers. And again, that's authorized through my sales rep record. I'm allowed to do that. So God forbid I abuse that privilege, it could be taken away from me. But right now I have everything. I can do quotes and orders, and even convert quotes to orders as a sales rep in on behalf of mode. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about here. I want you to all see that because the dealer and distributor functionality in EQ is very, very powerful, and it's really robust. So I wanted to make sure we saw that. Okay, and here's a slide about the OBO. I don't think I'm supposed to say OBO. I think I'm supposed to say on behalf of, and not make that an acronym. It's kind of an impersonation feature. I don't know why I want to say impersonation feature. So a user that's in on behalf of mode, they can view the exact same information that would have been available to the dealer or other sales rep. And you saw how on my screen, those like 6 or 7 sales reps, including Sherry and myself, that I was able to enter quotes and convert quotes to orders and enter orders for as well. Okay, so a user that's in on behalf of mode, they can do anything or everything that the user they're impersonating can do. Okay, and you saw how I can limit that. That could be limited for me just for quotes. Maybe I can't do it at all, so there is some security there. And then a parent dealer, by default, can always work in on behalf of mode for one of their child dealers or child distributors. Okay, I wanted to hit that hard because that is a great and expansive and very robust part of enterprise quoting. Now let's move on to today's real topic, is visual engagement. So we're looking at interactive, dynamic, real-time 3D engagements. Remember last week when I showed you that one quote, I showed you the 2D parametric drawings. Remember how the drawing was automatically resizing and recalculating the dimensions as I was changing things. So that was 2D visual engagement, and 2D parametric drawings in particular. And that was a 2D model that had been generated either in SolidWorks or Autodesk Inventor. And now we're looking at 3D engagements, and you can use either SolidWorks or CreoCAD or Autodesk Inventor. SolidWorks and CreoCAD have very direct ways to link their models into the CPQ Design Studio rule sets. The path is a little more involved for AutoCAD Inventor, but it's not impossible. There are two different ways actually to do that. Okay, so let's take a look. All right, so visually guiding selection, that's the first and most basic thing you can do. And typically here you're using still images, although videos could be included and embedded here. But typically what you have is, as I'm saying in my slide, captivating real life photos. And this allows the user, the person in the configuration session, to differentiate the allowable available selections. So here I have the 4 product lines or product families of my hot tubs or home spa, however you want to think of these. And so then when I click on one of these images, it will fill in the enterprise configurator option for me. We'll be seeing that in just a second, how that works. So it's not just like a radio button or a drop down. It actually has images to drive the configuration process, which is a huge help. And this really differentiates, web-based configurators or even Windows-based configurators from the old like KBC, the green screen configurator in XA. Okay, so another strong characteristic of the 3D visualization experience in Enterprise Configurator is the WYSIWYG, and yes, I'm allowed to make an acronym out of that. So what you see is what you get. And that chair rule set, what it does is every time you click on a different material color or the mesh color or the color of the arms and the legs, it will change the image. And so notice I've chosen peach. Because I live just outside of Georgia, right on the state line. So Georgia peach, South Carolina peach. All right, so I chose the peach color, and that's what I got there. And then I would change as I update. And there also, it knows exactly which zones to update. So if I zoom in on this chair or zoom out, and I change the color of the material, it'll know. So right now I'm selecting the seat color. It'll know just to change the seat color, no matter how big or how small the image is. Whether I can spin the image around, zoomed in, zoomed out, pan to the left, pan to the right. That hot zone, that zone in the image will remain, and it knows exactly what to update depending on what options I've selected. Okay, here's an example of the transformer rule set, and this is one I want to look at. This is an exploded view. So you're looking at the actual coils and the windings inside the transformer, and then the cover plate and the ventilation pieces have been removed. So, and you can zoom in and zoom out and pan in any direction. You can rotate, you can look at from the top down, from the bottom up, or kind of like what I'm doing now, looking at a typical human point of view. So we'll see that more about that. But this way you get to see a very good look at all the inside components inside a manufactured item. The hot tub will see that as well. That's going to be allowed in that 3D model as well. Okay, one really nice thing, and this helps with the configuration experience, particularly when you're dealing with like spare parts, supplemental parts, spare parts. So this transformer has these L brackets on them. They go up and then they come out a little bit. So this one, maybe you can see a little better, is like the letter L. And so if I click just on one of those, and again, it knows no matter how big or small the image is, there's a hot zone in the 3D model, and it knows that that is the short L bracket. We'll see this in just a minute. There's a longer L bracket in each one of these transformers as well. But what it does is it automatically activates the input box for the short L brackets. So if I'm like, well, I don't know what the short L brackets are, where they used, this way I can click on it and I can know exactly which spare part I'm going to be ordering right from the image itself. So I'm not guessing at all. I know exactly, okay, these are the L brackets, and then I can enter, an appropriate quantity. All right, upselling, cross-selling. Let's talk about upselling. You can use messages to detail the advantages of an upgraded option. So here's our 3D forklift. And notice I chose as a fuel type natural gas. So this message is popping up saying, please consider a different fuel type for high capacity forklifts, because I'm saying I want the forklift to be able to do 7,000 pounds. Natural gas has many advantages, but provides less power. So I'm trying to be nice. I'm affirming the strengths of natural gas, the positive attributes, but I'm also kind of saying, no, you really should choose something better here. So here's an upselling opportunity. Okay, and that's built right into the rule set. This isn't Coleman AI driven or anything like that. This is built right into the logic of the CPQ rule set for enterprise configurator. And here's a good example as well of additional options and accessories. And you can provide a mandatory screen listing additional options and accessories. And you can see how on our forklift, all kinds of stuff about lighting, backup warning, all that kind of thing. Controlling it with a joystick control, that kind of thing, keyless ignition, things like that. So, of course, in colder climates, an engine block heater, things like that. Here's a real good one, a holder for a barcode scanner, because God forbid, like an Intermec barcode scanning device or an iPad or something, it's really not good when one of those drops 5 or 6 feet onto a hard concrete floor. That's not a good scenario to imagine. So you want to have some type of nice secure holder. So just little things like that. You can, and again, this could be a mandatory screen. They don't have to select any of them, but at least they have to see the screen and then click either continue or finish, depending on how the rule set is set up. Okay, so what I want to do now is real quickly is go into that transformer. So speaking of quotes and orders, let's go to a quote. I'm going to do a direct quote, even though I could be doing a dealer quote, of course. So let's see, let me pick on this one here. All right, I'm going to add. All right, so again, like I mentioned last, this is our product catalog with all our images, but I have it organized into categories. I'm gonna go down to our transformers, and there should be 4 different ones, and there are, so I'm gonna go on the base transformer. I'm gonna click that I wanna configure it. Okay, so there are some basic electrical settings I just have to make. This is an electrical transformer after all. You will notice there is some intelligence in here as I choose different radio buttons. Other options are going to kind of dance around on the screen and change, because it is intelligent enough to know if I've made a certain choice at the very beginning, then some of the other options change. Okay, and I'm going to pick some of the others. I'm deliberately skipping the kilovoltage because I want you to see the error message when it gets upset with me for not specifying a kilovoltage. There it is. Hey, you. Yeah, you. Please select a voltage. So yeah, that's me. Okay, yeah, I'm talking to you, buddy. There we go. Okay, great. So now I'm good. As we mentioned last week, it keeps a summary of all the configuration options I've done so far, and of course, there's some I haven't gotten to yet. Okie dokie. So I can select a coil. I could actually have images here if I wanted to for this coil and core. That would be fine. That would be a real good way to incorporate some visual configuration. Here's an example where I am. So my 2 mounting options, either it's a pole mount, like on a utility pole, or it's a pad mount, on the ground kind of thing. Okay, always want to select the wildlife guard. God forbid, I don't want to kill Bambi's mom with my transformer in the wilderness. I want to be very respectful of the wildlife. I want the wildlife guard, but if I kind of go a little crazy here and I want both guards, can't do it. I can only have one. So again, I just did that as it's a teachable moment, so you can see that the rule sets can prevent scenarios that absolutely cannot happen in real life. You can only have one of the guards mounted on the transformer. There's not room for both. So that error message prevents someone from actually trying to do both. I do want the skid packaging. The custom nameplate is good. This is an example of a text area, as CPQ Design Studio calls it. Okay, so there I am. I'm good there. Now I want to, for example, I may I'm looking at this price, I may want to see what has constituted the elements in this price. So I can come here and you can see everything that's adding up to my total price. But the real reason we're here today, and let me go to the spare parts screen, and now let's do this thing. So visual configuration. Okay, so it's going to load my 3D model. You saw from my PowerPoint slides that the transformer is going to allow, and there it is, an exploded view. So I'm going to move this over a little bit. Come on, you. Okay, good. Exploded view. So there it is. Now, if the casing really isn't of interest to me, I mean, maybe I do want to look a little more at these ventilation pieces here. I can zoom in. I'm just using the scroll wheel on my mouse. Maybe I do want to look at those, but now that I've looked at them, I'm done with them. I can click this show cover and those all go away. So now I'm truly looking at the guts of the transformer. And of course I can zoom in, zoom out. Now what I'm doing is I'm like dragging my mouse down and it's rotating it. So now I'm looking at the very top of the transformer down. If I grab it with my right mouse button and I can pan to the right, pan to the left, however I want to do it. So when you start zooming in, zooming out, rotating and panning, it's pretty neat. And check this out. Someone at Infor was very creative. There's like a cityscape being reflected in the exterior of the coils, you know, the wrapper around. Isn't that cool? See, there's like a cityscape. I just love that. Anyway, just so if you want to be creative and be left-brained and right-brained, you can do that. Okay, anyway, let me zoom back out. So the point is you can take a real good look at what is involved on the inside of one of your configurable items using a 3D model that was created and then exported out of one of the popular engineering drawing tools. Specifically SolidWorks, CreoCAD, or Autodesk Inventor. Now let me talk a little bit more about these hot zones again. So for example here, let me go to the pan up a little bit. Yep. Let me zoom out a little bit so I can, okay. So all of this stuff is metal and all that, but these rubber bushings are not. And of course they're there, I guess, is kind of like shock absorbers kind of thing. So obviously the first thing that's going to deteriorate in an outside environment is these rubber bushings. So if I click on one, now notice in the upper left, notice what's happening. As I click on it, it activated the mounting bushing quantity input box. All right. So no matter which one of these I click on, it could be the one that's a little smaller up here. And if I zoom in even more, it knows, again, this is a hot zone. And then if I zoom out, and I happen to be really, really good. Okay. Hey, I still got it. How about that? All right. Okay. So now also, so what I can do then, all right, so I know that there's two of these at each corner, so a multiple of 8. So, and I can actually put logic for that in the rule set that it can suggest multiples of 8. Okay. And then remember I was talking about the short L brackets. That would be one of these right here. And notice it activated the short L bracket quantity field. All right, I'm going to get 12 of those. And then here's that long L bracket. See how it's a little longer than the others because it's holding up this piece here that the cover's attaching to. So when I click on that, the long L bracket quantity activates. Okay, let's say 4 of those. All right, so that was a pretty cool 3D model. That's one of the things you can do. There's a lot in here. The hot zones are in there, the panning, the spinning, the zooming in and out. Wanted you to see all that. So I'm going to say finish for this particular configuration. And let's get back to the PowerPoint. So this should be here. Yeah. Okay, good. All right, now we're talking QR codes and augmented reality. Adding a virtual overlay image onto a live view is what we're talking about here. You see this in many different kind of applications, but configurators are especially one good one because you can actually see what it's going to look like in your setting. So if you're standing out on your back patio and looking at your backyard, and you have Infor Go maybe on your tablet or iPhone, because enterprise quoting works great on Infor Go mobile app, then you could scan the QR code and you could actually place the hot tub right in your backyard using the camera on your phone or tablet, and you can see what it actually would look like. Okay, so audience participation alert. So you'll see here in a second, I'm going to be generating a QR code. And if you have a QR reader, you'll be able to scan that QR code. And here's the app that Sherry talked about, the QR reader for the iPhone. It also works for the iPad. And last I knew, there's a Samsung or Android version of this as well. So the setup I'm using for this demo, iPhone 7, obviously not a brand new iPhone by any means. I also have an iPad mini 5, certainly not the latest and greatest. So a little unsolicited marriage advice here. I update my devices by buying my wife the latest and greatest, and I get her hand-me-down. So that way, it's a win-win. Okay, just a little unsolicited advice there. iOS 15.5, and then it was Tap Media Limited that developed this app. And so the iPhone version that I've tested pretty robustly is the 9.1. The iPad mini is the 4.8. And I do have Safari selected as the default web browser. I'm a huge DuckDuckGo fan, but in this case, on the Apple ecosystem, it wanted to open up Safari, so I finally had to let the app open up Safari, and then I actually had to make it the default web browser for my device. So oh well. Okay, so here's what happens once you see the QR code in the configurator. Then you can scan it, and then it's going to bring an image up for you. And this is the hot tub, and then I can place it in my reality, in my space. I happen to be, at this time, I was looking at picture my screen. Those of you that have seen my desktop, it's a field of orange wildflowers. So I was putting the hot tub in that setting. Okay, so let me go back and do what I'm talking about. So go back to my quote. All right, so it's a new item. Okay, back to the product catalog. All right, there it is. Talked about some of the visual configuration settings already. Remember, one of my first slides was I can use these images to select which product family. So that's the very first thing I need to tell this particular enterprise configurator rule set is which of the product families am I going to be dealing with here. So I'm going to choose the J400. I just really like this product line. It's got a nice price point and all that for me. And I'm going to choose the J475. Now let me get the image going. I'll play around with the image just a little bit, and then we'll actually generate the QR code. I just want you to see how the image is going to be responsive to my input. Okay, so here it is right now. Now, I have a favorite combination here, but notice is right now the outside, and again, same thing, rotate, pan, right, left, up, down. What else? Oh yeah, zoom in and zoom out, so you can really zoom in on this thing and see, what all the little seats are. This is my favorite part of it right here. It's like a recliner in the hot tub. That's where I would be like permanently camped out. If you want to be in the hot tub, but without the water jets, there's a seat. Where is it? Right here. You can sit there and not have the water coming out. So anyway, whoops, zoom out. Oh my goodness. Okay. So anyway, go up, down. All right. What I want you to see, if I can zoom out. Yeah, there we go. Boy, oh boy. All right. Yeah, I can do this. Okay. So now let me choose the modern hardwood, and notice the casing color has changed. Okay. If I go to the smoked ebony, same thing there. And then here's my all-time favorite. My favorite is the smoked ebony on the casing and the Sahara on the inside. Oh, I just love that. Isn't that a thing of beauty? It truly is. Okay, now there's also, notice some upgrades. Hey, you get a little upselling here. Ooh, integrated Bluetooth stereo and speaker package. Wow, who could say no to that? A smart tub, so it'd be, part of the Internet of Things, so to speak. Now, I don't happen to live in an area that has extreme cold weather, so I am going to pass on that one, but I just have to have those other two. Okay, so I'm going to open up the QR code, and then I need a minute to, once I do that, to allow you all to scan the QR code if you have a QR code reader on your phone, mobile phone, or tablet. So let me do that. There it is. And then I need to start up my application that mirrors my iPhone or iPad onto my PC screen. So while you all are scanning that QR code, give me just a minute to get my ducks in a row here. Okay, so let me open up my mirroring app. All righty. Yay. Okay, so technology is great when it works, and in this case, it is working. Okay, great. All right, so I don't really need that. And of course, you're not going to see my finger swipes and all that on my iPad. Oh, no, 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 no. I just want you. Oh, yeah, there we go. Make it go away. Okay, there we go. All right, so now I'm seeing it, but this is what I was seeing in on my PC screen. So there's not much that's spectacular here. It's just that I'm controlling, and you can't see my finger swipes, but I'm controlling it with my fingers now. I'm causing it to spin, zoom in, zoom out. Again, there's that recliner part of it that I really, really like. So I can pinch. I'm pinching to zoom in and out. I can pan. If I do the 2-finger thing, I can rotate it, all of that. Okay, so you can take like a virtual tour of this thing on your mobile device. And one nice thing is, again, EQ works really, really well. And these configuration options, configure the visual configuration options work really, really well inside of Infor Go mobile app. All right, so there I am taking, and again, I'm taking a look at this. But as cool as that is, that was available on my PC screen. But now let me hit the AR for augmented reality, and then I'm going to get this hot tub to actually show up in my office here. So, because we all would love to have a hot tub to soak in, on our lunch break and stuff. So here we are. It's got to get a little smaller. Yeah, there we go. So in front of my door, probably not a good idea. Probably a tripping hazard. I don't think the cats would like that too much. All right, if I can move this around a little bit. Okay, so I kind of have it in front of my little desk where I work on stuff for my family. They ask me to, they think because I'm a programmer, I can fix printers and screens and stuff. So anyway, okay, there we go. So now I have this thing about where I want it. And then I actually, by moving the device now, is what I'm doing. I'm going down to look, and I'm kind of taking a tour. And if you see my feet, I apologize, they might come into the field of vision. So I'm kind of taking a tour of this thing by moving the device around. So I'm not swiping or anything like that. I'm actually hovering in, and it's as if this thing was right here in front of me. It's so weird. Looking at the screen, I would swear this thing's like right down below me, but it's just a virtual image. It's augmented reality. So pretty cool. Again, zoom in, zoom out. There's that recliner piece again that I love so much. You can just imagine sitting in there during lunch break. Okay, so there we go. So there it is. So there's the hot tub inside of my office. So I will leave it by the door at the end. So hopefully some of you were able to successfully do that as well. And that's just an example of augmented reality. And I just love the fact that you can place this in a real life situation. And if you want to, you can always go back to just the object itself, and then you can replace it. Whoops, replace it in your live environment. All right, so that's augmented reality. I do want to move on to the Coleman AI, and I want to leave plenty of time for questions today, both from last week and this week. So as much as I'd love to keep playing with this, I should move on. All right, so I'm going to go here. Okay, so that was great. All right, back to the PowerPoint. All right, here we are. So if you have any questions on anything I've shown you so far, feel free to type them in the chat as they come to your mind. And I am going to try to leave a generous length of time for questions today. And it could be about anything we've covered today or last session. If you want to talk more about the 2D drawings that we looked at last time, that'd be fine too. The focus today, of course, was on the 3D and the visualization approaches and augmenting or enhancing the configuration experience with the use of images, including augmented reality. And I did make one reference to the fact that videos, MP4s, that kind of thing, can be embedded into the CPQ Design Studio rule set designer as well to show up in Enterprise Configurator. All right, now let's talk about probably the newest and the really coolest addition, enhancement to Infor.OS. EQ is not the only module in Infor.OS that has the Coleman AI capabilities, but a little over a year ago when the cloud update came out, EQ also was able to talk to the Coleman AI and utilize the Coleman AI capabilities. So that is part of Infor.OS if, of course, you're licensed to it. Let's talk a little bit about that. All right. So the Coleman AI, it's very much a state of the art. And of course, you're hearing a lot about artificial intelligence. Last year, when we did the 2002 summer journey, AI was a little bit in the news, but I think you're hearing about it all the time now about what do we do with it? Do we regulate it? You know, all that kind of stuff. You know, what's the future here? Elon Musk, you know, who's bought Twitter and owns Tesla and SpaceX and all that. He's said a lot of things about it, as have other people. So it's kind of interesting. It's a little more of a hot topic this year. But the Coleman AI that is part of Infor.OS, if you're licensed to it, it does use machine learning techniques, and it'll show you links to related data. And it's just amazing how quickly this thing can learn. And identify the power is, it takes in a ton of data and identifies patterns that human beings probably would discover eventually, but it does it so much quicker. Okay, and then it explores, different options and possibilities. Okay, so how does this fit into EQ? Well, you could use the Coleman AI to do predictive product recommendations. You see this in Amazon, of course. You buy product ABC, and then if you scroll down just a little bit, it'll say, hey, you bought ABC. Well, other people that bought ABC also bought EFG, and also some people bought XYZ, so it shows you other recommendations, and they're not just, out of the blue, they are related, that kind of thing. And so it's analyzing, of course, a big corporation like Amazon with tons of cloud computing processing. They're doing tons of data collecting as well, data mining, and they're keeping track of people's shopping behaviors. So that's what's going to be happening in your EQ module as well with Coleman AI, obviously on a much smaller scale, but you can be keeping track of what's going on, and you can start actually predicting what recommendations, what the person most likely is going to want in addition to what they're already adding to their quote or order. So it doesn't have to be hard coded in. Like you saw what I did earlier, the forklift had the screen of accessories, safety accessories, and there was and of course, you remember the one I was talking so much about is the protective pocket or whatnot for your Intermec scanner or your iPad or Samsung tablet or whatnot, so that those don't take a nosedive onto the hard concrete floor. Okay, it is an add-on, and it can be deployed in the cloud tenant. So how it works is when you're in the enterprise configurator and you're in a configuration session, it shows up as a mingle context app, meaning it takes up like the 1/3 of the screen over on the right. This isn't the only mingle context app. XA, for example, Netlink, you can set up the mingle context apps to show related business objects, whether it's list views or cards or card files, whatever it may be. You can also show, for example, an XA IDM and for document management. You have a context app that'll display, like if you're on a customer order, it'll show you like a thumbnail of the customer order acknowledgement. You can double click on it. It'll bring up the actual document, whether it's a PDF or whatnot. You can then email it, print it, download it, wherever you want to do. So this isn't the only Mingle in Context app, but it is a really, really cool one. So, and it's constantly, as you're moving through different products, different configuration options, as you're navigating inside a quote within EQ, then the Coleman AI is constantly kind of updating links to recommended products for you. So it's pretty neat. So the user can then select a product that's in that widget, say, hey, yeah, I do want that, and it'll add it as a line item onto their quote. All right. And as I mentioned, 2022.02 version of EQ. So it's obviously been about a year and a half now. And so it's getting mature, and it's not just something that came out recently. And it's definitely cutting edge technology. I consider the Coleman AI and then the Burst data analytics, those are like the crown jewels of Infor.OS, although EQ is pretty close behind them. So these two guys are, or gals, whatever they are, software is probably gender neutral. If Coleman AI and Burst are like the crown jewels of Infor.OS, then EQ's like a diamond. It's right behind it. I like it a lot. I love it, really. So anyway, but Coleman AI is the cutting edge technology for Infor.OS. There's no doubt about it. And Burst would be a very close second, being very powerful data analytics. Okay, so here's just a sample of how a Mingle widget would work. I decided to use a Netlink screen capture because we're all familiar with XA. If you're not familiar with Netlink, hopefully you can see how it looks like a thin client web version of PowerLink. But then this context app, this Mingle context app, is taken up, roughly a third of the screen over on the right. And if you're in an EQ quote, that context app could be controlled by Coleman AI, and it could be providing live links to other add-on products, upselling, cross-selling. Okay, so here's an example from Amazon where this kind of logic was applied. And so what's happening here, companies are wanting to embrace this because of FOMO, and that is an acceptable acronym, I'm told. So fear of missing out, FOMO. So it's a real thing. Everybody as a consumer even. So I was just interested in just a plain iPad, just didn't need to be too fancy about it. But then when Amazon brought all this up, I was like, oh, look what else I could get for maybe just a little more money than I have right now. But look at this. Look what else. I get a better chip with the top three. I get 2 terabytes of storage and a mobile device. Are you kidding me? That's incredible. So that's incredible. I've heard that the human brain actually has a capability of around 4 terabytes. So that's going to be quite a day when our iPhones have more memory than our actual brains. Anyway, the camera is much more robust. So I'm like, So, and so FOMO, I was experiencing FOMO firsthand, fear of missing out. I was like, wow, gee, maybe I will use up that 256 gigabyte quicker than I think, So anyway, that's what Coleman AI, one of the things they're playing on there from a psychology point of view. Okay, there's my contact information, charles.hood@ise-erp.com. There's my home office number. So I did want to finish around 10 of, Sherry. I want to have plenty of time for questions, and I know you have some follow-up, and I hope a lot of you were able to kind of play along at home, if you will, with the augmented reality. So that's what I have for today, Sherry. So over to you.
Okay, thank you, Charles.
You're
I
welcome.
am curious if the participants could just share with me and maybe chat, and you can just send it to me if you want. If you were able to participate in the augmented reality, if you were able to get the hot tub in your workspace, I'd be curious to hear. So if you could just send that in your chat, you could just send it to me as the host. Then that would give me a good feel as to how we're doing with our participation, our audience participation. Okay, so the last section that we have is just talking a little more about building your prototype. Part of the summer journey is for you to get some hands-on experience and apply it to your own business. And so what we've done is put these building blocks, I call them, together to help you identify whether or not CPQ would be a good solution for you. I'm convinced it will be, but I think we need to convince you too. So if you haven't already done so, you can send me your photo of your selected item. The idea is to, it's a 5-part process here of building blocks that we're doing. So we're looking for you to send a photo of your products. It could be a JPEG or a PNG file. And email that to me. And if you have any problems emailing, if it's too big or whatever, let me know. But I think you can send pretty good size documents through email these days. But and then the second part of it is I'm combining these two building blocks together, and that's to create what we're calling limited bill of material and limited routing. So we're looking for your selected product to have up to 3 components with up to 4 selectable options, and then add your facility names and your operation numbers. So each of you who participated in the session 2 weeks ago should have received an email from me with the template. So if you have any questions on how to fill the template out, or if you're struggling with anything, please just reach out and let us know. Keep in mind that all of the services that we're providing to help you build this prototype are free of charge. We're not charging for any of our time, and we're looking at this as an investment for you as well. So you're investing time, we're investing time, and trying to prove out that this is a good solution as a limited proof of concept. So we're looking to get those back from you in 2 weeks. So by August 9th, if you could fill out that template and send it back to me along with your photos if you haven't already done so. And then then we'll do some homework. We're going to load this data into our enterprise quoting, our CPQ demo version, and then build that out for you so that when you join us at the conference, you'll be able to get your hands on the product and see your own solution. So it's a great experience. So then after we get these 3 steps accomplished, then the 4th step will be supplying us a 3D CAD drawing that we can incorporate into the CPQ experience for you. And then the very last step that we'll get to is it's a short questionnaire, and that's how you want to do some integrations with XA in terms of do you want to have a unique item as part of that? So that's a discussion for next session in 2 weeks, where Charles will spend a little more time on talking about the XA integration and how we can create unique item numbers for every configuration that you create or your customers create. So any questions that anyone has? Okay, here's a question for Charles. Once the configuration rules are built, how hard is it to do 3D interactive or AR?
Oh, wow. Okay, great question. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again, Sherry, if that's okay.
Please, go ahead.
Share screen if I can do this right. And share. Okay, what you're looking at right here, I just happen to be in the CPQ design studio. So I was looking at the rule set for the spa that I was showing you. So the real work is obviously in the 3D modeler, SolidWorks, CreoCAD, or Autodesk Inventor. But when you have a model that is compatible with Enterprise Configurator EC, then it's really not hard. There's really just one rule set here. And what happens here is you set some variables, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but it's really not that difficult. You set some variables, you initialize some data. You need to be able to go out to the server that's in the cloud, since it's cloud-based, to fetch the model and make it do what you want to do. So there's a bunch of, yeah, you've seen these GUIDs for connectivity before. That's what they are. So you're authorizing yourself to go, and you're telling it what data to grab and all that. And then ultimately you're pointing to a specific URL. Since you're in the cloud, you specify visual configuration environment, and it knows. So you set up all the data, it knows to go out and grab that 3D image for the spa. In this case, of course, it could have been the transformer, it could have been the chair, it could have been the tractor trailer that we have. So it's really not too hard to incorporate the 3D images in the rule sets. So the hard part, of course, is the engineer using the 3D modeling up front. So it's not difficult at all to bring these models, provided they're in the right format, into a rule set at all. That's not difficult at all.
All right, and the second part of that, Charles, was the augmented reality. How hard is it to bring in augmented reality?
Oh, same thing. It's not difficult at all. It's a specific rule. Let's see if I can find it in here, but it's not hard at all. Let's see. I wasn't prepared to find that one, but it is. Okay, here's where you do the explosion, where you can explode the image. All right, and so et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, okay, so it gets, you have some screen setup work to do. It's not too bad though. But the augmented reality is not difficult at all. It's just another couple of variables that you set up within your rule set. So you basically have, of course, I'm getting too far into the weeds. You have a variable rule in your rule set. You say that you want to allow the augmented reality, and provided your model can support that, then it's that simple. So I hope that answers that question. Again, it's all in the setting up of the 3D models. Once you're able to publish a viable 3D model, CPQ rule designer, design studio can handle it really well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't see any other questions at this time.
Okay, if I have just a minute.
Yep, go ahead.
For those of you that are
We have
CPQ.
we have 3 minutes left. Charles.
Okay, sure. Okay, I just want to show you something real quick. Since we've got together last time, we have hooked up CPQ analytics to the Infor data lake. And so Burst is now active in our Infor OS instance. So you're looking at some data analytics for our EQ quotes and orders. So for example, down here, you're seeing the bluish green is the dealer quotes, and then the dark blue is the direct quotes. For example, you're seeing a breakdown by sales reps, and I just happen to be leading the way.
I see that.
Yeah,
I
sure.
guess I need to get to work.
Yeah. Too bad it's a test environment. Anyway, you can double click on any one of these. You can see the data that's behind any one of these images. And I guess that was the main thing I wanted everyone to see. I did rearrange these icons to have the CPQ suite all together. And that's really about it. I talked a little bit about the, what am I doing? The homepage, that we've redone it. And we now have, for example, if I'm supposed to be approving a workflow, then it'll show up down here. I can get the workflow viewer, and I can see exactly where I am in the workflow. And this was for an example for an engineering approval. You can also have a pricing approval. So I know it's over to me, it's my turn. I have to either say yay or nay that this the engineering details of this particular quote are okay. So that's all I wanted to show. I just want to show we're constantly working with this thing and improving it and enhancing it, and Infor's providing great functionality all the time. So thank you very much.
One last question. Can you export the data from the analytics?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So let's take a look at maybe this guy. All right, so I'm a little, see, you get a table like this, and you can definitely export, and then you can export, as a PDF. You can export what you're actually looking at to Excel, or you can export all the data to Excel, which apparently is all the data that analytics has. So exporting is very, very simple. Yeah, PDF or Excel are your options, or you can have a printed report, of course, here, which would give you this. Yep. So most definitely the most emphatic YES to that question.
All right, perfect. And we are right at the top of the hour. So thank you everyone for your participation. If you have any other questions, please follow up with me via email or to Charles, and I will be following up with you as well on your prototype. All right, looking forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Bye-bye.